Like I promised, boys and girls, this is part 2 of our Being a Bee story. Let's see what else there is to learn. Working in the hive, when she is all about 3 weeks old, remember we just learned about the female bees and what their jobs are as they change and grow. After the 2nd week, when she starts building new cells, now she's in the 3rd week, and she starts another new job. She waits near the entrance of the hive, ready to take pollen and nectar from other bees flying home who have been collecting it. So if you see right here on the bee's legs, there's the pollen and nectar that it's been collecting. She also guards the entrance, checking that all the returning bees are from her family and are not looking to steal honey. Guard bees can tell if bees are from other hives by their smell, and then they attack and chase them away. See, this bee as well has nectar and pollen on its legs. These bees are guarding the entrance to make sure that it's only someone who lives in her family coming home. Flying out. When a bee is about 22 days old, she is an adult and ready to gather food. She does a few short flights to practice flying and to learn to find her way home. Then she flies out into the open air to search for flowers. The bee flies from plant to plant, collecting nectar and pollen. Flower pollen is like yellow dust, and the bee carries it in parts of her back legs called pollen baskets. Nectar is a sweet liquid made by flowers. When the bee finds it, she sucks it up into an extra stomach called a honey sac. Dancing bees. When a worker bee finds a patch of flowers full of nectar and pollen, she tells the other bees how to find it. To do this, she does a dance. First, the bee runs around in a circle. Then she cuts across the circle at an angle to show the other bees the direction they should fly in. To tell them how far away the flowers are, she waggles her body. The more she wiggles and waggles, the farther the other bees know they have to go. So here's her dance. She cuts across and around and this way, and then she does her wiggle. And look, they're all watching this. Oh, it's that far? Oh, okay, this direction? They're having a little bee meeting. Flower to flower. Flowering plants need pollen from a flower of the same kind to help new plants grow. Bees can help flowers get pollen. When a bee lands on a flower, its body gets covered in pollen. When it visits the next flower, some of this pollen brushes off and pollinates the plant. Other insects, as well as birds and bats, pollinate flowers too. But bees are the most important pollinators. Without bees, many plants would not be able to produce seeds. And these seeds all have to do with food that we eat. So if the bees don't pollinate our food, it won't be able to grow. So it's very important that we keep bees safe. Making honey. Bees use nectar to make honey, which they store in their hive until it's time to eat. A lot of work goes into making honey, so it's important for all the bees to work together. It takes about 10 million trips out from the nest to make enough honey to fill one jar. Lots of other animals, including people, like to eat honey too, and they collect it from bees' nests. When people who keep bees do this, they always make sure they leave enough honey for the bees to eat. Don't want to take too much. It's important to share. A new nest. Sometimes a bee colony gets too big. When this happens, the queen may leave the nest with all the older workers and drones in a big group called a swarm. Workers called scouts look for a place to make a new nest. When they have found one, their queen and the other bees join them. In the old nest, a new queen hatches. She mates with drones from other hives and starts to lay eggs to build up the colony again. Beekeeping. We need bees to pollinate our plants, and we love the honey that they make, but bees don't need humans. Wild bees can build their own nests. We can, though, provide bees with a cozy hive home, and in return, take some of their honey. During the summer months, bees make more honey than they need. When looking in the hive, a beekeeper must wear protective clothing and be very careful. Bees are not dangerous, but they will defend the hive. A beekeeper's job is to look after the bees and watch for any signs of disease while disturbing the hive as little as possible. Remember we talked about the gloves and the masks and their protective bodysuit. Save the bees. Honeybees are in trouble. There's much less grassland and far fewer wildflower meadows than ever before, so it's harder for bees to gather the nectar and pollen they need. Bees are also harmed by the chemicals that farmers spray on their fields to kill other bees. You and your family can help by planting flowers in your garden and leaving wild spaces, or by planting seeds in areas of wasteland to make bee-friendly spaces. Buy local honey to support the beekeepers in your area and tell people how important bees are to all of us. Bees matter, and the more people speak up for them, the more likely it is that they will be protected. The end. Here are some definitions of some of the words that we talked about. But here's also some information that you can look up to find more about bees.